Goodness.
All right, and here we are with Andy and Kate back once again for round 2 on The World as It Is today. How are you two doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We are doing great. How you doing?
Oh, it's
good.
Things are starting to finally slow down, which it has been several months of go with homestead and kids and life. Now as the weather's changing, it feels good. It hasn't actually started slowing down yet. I've still got a lot to do. We always will.
But you can start to see the changing, like the change of the season.
I'm starting to walk into the house to the smell of broth, which means that the seasons are truly changing.
Yeah, squash in our house.
Yeah, I think I should say, I think you guys are our first guest that's come back.
That's cool.
Hey.
First return champions.
There you go. Awesome.
Absolutely.
And you guys are still my second podcast.
First and
also
second.
My first one. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't get out much.
So yeah, right now we're mourning. Well, Kate's more out there mourning the death of the garden. Even though it's a necessary, beautiful process in itself, and we reap so many benefits from it. It's like, well, you've been saying it. It's hard to watch it fall apart.
Something else is like brown. I'm like, no, because we're
right.
on 5 where it's cold at night now. I just picked the last of our tomatoes, I think, that are gonna ripen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like to look at the death of the garden as the birth of my compost for next year. Because that's where I'm at in the last week. I've got like a 2-stage compost system where we've been digging out of one all year to use for the beds and stuff. And then we've been filling one all year that I just been turning and trying to break down. And now I just cleaned that all out and moved that into the one for next year. So now, and then we got all these leaves and grass clippings and stuff. So I'm getting this all set up so that can just start breaking down for the next several months so that we can get into it next year. But I don't know, I might be a bit of a nerd. I get really excited about compost.
We do too. We just don't have the setup that we want. We talked about it all summer, improving the system that we have, which it was fine. We didn't get any compost yet, but we're working on it.
It doesn't seem to compost. Like it sort of does, but I think we have a bad.
We got lame. We went to we were getting stuff at Home Depot or someplace like that, and we saw one of those convenient spinny ones with the multiple, and they look really great. But honestly, I don't know if they're doing that well, But we want to have the whole setup that you see on. I don't know, just these separate sections build it with pallets, and just go to town.
Yeah. We were actually I just threw out yesterday the idea. I kind of want to get some of those big cement blocks like you see in like construction, like maybe blocking a road or something like that. I want to get, I don't know what they cost. I don't know if it's within my means of ability to get them.
Oh, like those big ones that like divide the
yeah.
Oh, okay.
They have like
I want to get a bunch of those and then set those up so it would almost look like a fork or something, like a row across the back, and then wide enough. I have a tractor, so if it's just wide enough for me to fit my loader in through there, and then have 3 of those, because right now we're on a two-stage system, and I hear 3-stage is even better, but it's kind of it's one step at a time for real, because we moved out here onto 25 acres from not really doing this kind of stuff. We had a little bit of space before, but all of a sudden it was just like, oh, we should probably be composting. Yeah, all I've ever done with that ever previously was trying to, I don't know, be good for the environment and not throw as much in the trash, and it would just be like a stinky pile in the back of my yard or something like that.
Now you're a part of the cycle of nature.
Yes. Yeah. But go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, but there was an old silo that just the base of is here. So it's just this big concrete ring. So I just started throwing everything in there. Nice. And that's what we did our first year, was just putting stuff in there. But then I was realizing that if I keep throwing stuff in there, then it never is ready to be just compost, just soil. It's always,
everything's at different stages of breaking down.
It's always got new stuff in there.
We're at. Yeah, we keep adding to it because it's we only have one small little area, so it never gets to fully compost.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's
this
where
year
we're
I
at.
stepped it up by, I found an old concrete trough that's like pretty big, that I started doing new compost in that while trying to keep the other one covered and just break down far enough that we can use on the gardens and stuff. And then that's what I just switched this year. I mean, just this week. And but now I'm just trying to think, because they're kind of far apart, these two things. It would make a lot of sense to have these next to each other. And like you guys were saying, there's the pallet ones, which are really appealing to me. But because of the scale of stuff that we're doing, that we jumped right into, and we, have the tractor and stuff, that's why the concrete blocks kind of seemed like maybe it would be a cool way to go.
Yeah, it
that's
seems
why
like you guys need a big thing.
Yeah, the concrete ring thing is hard because you have to turn it, and it's like you have to stand inside the compost pile to be able to like get the shovel in there. So I'm not going to do that.
I spend a lot of time wading around in the compost.
You need them waders.
Have
I'm
you
not there
guys
yet in my
ever-
gardening career?
No. Have you ever heard of bokashi composting?
No.
I feel like you
It's-
have.
So it's
probably
not a
don't.
gross sex thing. I think
No.
It's not
no.
bukkake.
That's what I'm
composting.
confusing it with. I'm like,
There's
don't
gonna
say
be a
the
lot
wrong
of
one. That's
wrong
embarrassing.
searches on the internet.
Yeah, bokashi composting. It's this Japanese method, and it uses basically like a starter culture of 3 different strains of bacteria, and you keep it in an anaerobic environment. So you spray your food scraps or whatever. You can even do meat and bones and stuff with this. Spray it with this solution of stuff, and then you squish it down in a bucket with like some newspaper in between so it catches the drippings, and you keep it in this enclosed bucket for, I don't know, I think it was like only 2 weeks, and then
you said anaerobic. That means
without
no
oxygen.
No
Yeah.
oxygen.
Sorry, I'm a fermenter, and it's a normal
It's
word.
just automatic.
Without oxygen, like when you're fermenting, and then you're able to bury that straight into the ground, and it continues to break down. But these bacteria like help accelerate the process. So you have compost that you're working with really quickly. And I think it's so popular in Japan because people are working with really small spaces, and you can do this in like a 5-gallon bucket inside your kitchen. And because of the bacteria, there's no smell. So it doesn't get
stink-free.
stinky.
Wow, that's
So-
interesting.
I'll send you guys a link
Yeah.
for the website.
Absolutely.
And I think
That's really
this
cool.
stuff you can get to inoculate it with is relatively inexpensive, and then it's condensed so it lasts for a super long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That
Yeah,
would
we
come
have
in
some
handy.
local people who make the stuff.
She doesn't make this stuff, but she teaches workshops, kind of like what I do for fermentation.
Yeah.
So I went to one of her workshops. She was after me at something we were doing, and she also sells the solution. But I wonder if there's a way you can grow the solution, like you can start wild
Probably.
fermentation. So I don't know. I was gonna look into that more because I'm like, I don't want to have to keep buying stuff. What if
That's
the
always a good
grid goes
message
down?
for people. That's like the message it ends up coming up on so many episodes where it's like, whatever you need to go buy, even if you're doing a bunch of DIY stuff with those things you're buying, can you make those things too?
Yeah.
Like, how far back in scale can you go?
That's what we talk about. all the
Where's
time.
your own patience level too, of course.
That's big. That's
one
big.
step back at a time. Like if you like Taco Bell, can you make tacos at home with like store-bought taco shells and shredded
Yeah.
lettuce?
Can you make it at home without using a diaper that's spread with beans?
That's the Taco Bell. And then like step back from that, and before you know it, you're making your own tortillas and stuff. But it's like
Right.
one little thing at a time.
Absolutely.
Or culturing your own sour cream, and then you got to be milking the cow for that eventually, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's just,
And then you got to be
simple.
growing your own hay for the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it
it just keeps going.
going. It's great. But you guys have been super busy in a small space this year, and
Mhm.
the pictures that I've seen you post have been amazing, like super inspiring. You guys have to be super happy when you got all that stuff, your harvest like lined up on the counter, and you're looking at it, like
Oh
Yeah,
man.
That was a crazy day. That was a crazy day. A lot of the videos we take of the garden are angles, just showing
Yeah.
it nicer.
oh heck yeah, I
But
know.
yeah,
That's
I
what
mean-
everyone's doing online though, right?
Yeah.
Well, we so this is our second complete year of
Yeah.
growing food, and last year we learned a lot from different mistakes. This year, like, you kind of went into the plan knowing you were growing too much,
I
because like near the end she's like complaining and telling me like, I grew too much. I'm like, you wanted to grow too much, but I don't know.
I
Let her
grew too
explain.
much, as in everything died.
Not everything.
Not I grew too much. What am I gonna do with these beans?
No,
It's like,
no, I know.
yeah.
But we were just basically experimenting with like how can we maximize the space?
Yeah.
And we saw how it doesn't work and how it can work.
Some
Like
stuff worked.
Corn and squash do not like each other apparently, or at least the
No. It had nothing to do with it. No.
I'm gonna let the boss talk.
We got the hit with the squash bugs and the vine borers at the same time.
Oh, whoa.
And I did the Three Sisters planting. And the beans overtook the corn and destroyed it. And then my sugar pumpkin, my acorn squash, my zucchini, my summer squash, my spaghetti squash, I got nothing.
Oh no.
I got two spaghetti squash and one sugar pumpkin, and everything else died.
Well, I saw that picture.
Yeah,
with your tiny butternuts in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that is sad. Yeah, for whatever reason, the winter squash I planted this year never came up. Yeah. And then I kept saying I was going to go get starts from somewhere, and then I was too late.
Yeah.
We had a number of weird situations like that where we're like,
all our butternut squash are like the size of this microphone is supposed to be butternut squash size.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And so of course all summer we're looking up at the sky like the fuck is going, like what are they doing? What are they doing today?
They're doing weird stuff. They definitely are.
And we were seeing that up and down the East Coast and other places, like people all over TikTok and Instagram and everything sharing produce. Super small or lack thereof of any fruit at all. Like
wild. So are you guys putting stuff up at all? Are you preserving?
I canned for the first time, and I'll let you know when we eat it if I did it well.
Oh, if you're still alive afterwards.
If you can, let us know, because don't you know canning is dangerous?
You can get botulism.
You might die.
What did you can?
Tomato sauce, and tomato soup, and then I made like a vegetable soup.
Cool.
So I don't want to overspeak the queen here of canning, but tomatoes is a really safe one. Am I right?
Tomatoes,
because it's so acidic,
you
that
can't
you're
get
not
botulism.
like people, if you are afraid of canning, which of course we're trying to make sure people are less afraid of it, that tomatoes is a great place to start with that, because it's so acidic that it's a pretty safe one.
Did you use a water bath canner? Or pressure can, yeah. And
dude,
so that's
we have a wonderful story about that too.
Yeah.
Because we just happened upon, so for a couple months we were like desperately looking all over the place for a giant pot. Like you just can't find them for under like $60 anywhere. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So we're like, well, we're not going to spend that kind of money, so we're just going to wait. And we're going yard sailing that morning or something, and we just decided to not go home yet and go to one more place. And
they had
everything we needed, including I was like, look, it's a giant pot. And she takes the top off, and they even have the perfect insert for the can. I'm like, yeah. You gotta be kidding me. It was just ridiculous. So it was meant to be.
Excellent. Yeah. Sometimes you can get a load of cans and stuff from estate sales or a place, grandma's basement that they're finally cleaning out.
I haven't looked into this myself, but I would imagine that kind of stuff, even used, would be expensive online when people know what it is and what and all that goes into it in 2022. But there are lots of grandmas whose kids didn't get into canning, and now they're like cleaning out their house, they're moving out of their house or whatever, like they have all this canning stuff. We even had an old lady down the road move out, and she said, do you want to come look through our stuff? And sure enough, she had a ton of canning. We have vintage jars and stuff.
I have jars still Kerr jars still in the box from like 1976 or something. I was like, I don't know if I can use these lids if the seal's still good, but man, the box is so cool.
The box is worth it.
Yeah, I think I have
you've been saying, right? You've been
3 canning pots, and I have not paid for one of them. Yeah, they were all hand-me-downs.
This was just but we just had we just did a little bit, nothing too crazy, but I think I followed all the rules, so hopefully.
You said vegetable soup?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you water bath can that too? Is it a tomato-based soup?
No, it's not. Are we gonna die?
Well,
absolutely not.
Yeah, maybe.
Eventually.
No. Did you? I mean, like, I can't tell the future. That's what I'm saying. But depending on, did you follow like a approved recipe or anything, or did you just wing it?
I wung the recipe.
Okay. And then the thing with water bath canning is that the food's supposed to be acidic so that botulism can't grow. And then there's another kind of a canner that's called a pressure canner, which is got a locking top. Like, you know, if you have an Instant Pot or like a pressure cooker, it's the same thing. It's like a pressure cooker.
Okay.
And so it just can get up to a higher temperature than boiling water can. And then that can eradicate any botulism. So my recommendation would be, is when you open your soup, don't eat it cold, just heat it all the way through. And then you that's your backup plan. Because
don't lick the spoon or your fingers.
Yeah, because if there is botulism in there, it can't survive high heat when you cook it again. So it's like, then as long as you eat the food cooked, it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's what they never tell you that. I don't know why. It's like, that's the simplest answer.
It's something that like I heard about like as a kid and stuff, you know, like botulism was always like in the air, you know, like especially being poor, like we'd get like, you know, cheap cans that would be dented and someone would be like, oh, I don't know, that looks like it could have botulism because it's a dented can or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it isn't until now, and as I was pushing 40, that I learned that botulism is actually pretty harmless if you go about it right. Like whether you can it yourself or if you're worried about it from the store, it can't survive that high heat. So anything that's heated, botulism is just like, instead of ever talking about botulism, we could have just always been saying, be sure to heat your food thoroughly.
Yeah. And if you're not sure, or like, I mean, right. If it's people are afraid of it because there's no smell to it. You know, you can't like tell it doesn't look like it's rotten or whatever, but there's botulism spores are everywhere all the time. And then it takes the right environment for them to create the botulism toxin, which is what can make you sick. Mm-hmm. So if you're working with high acid foods, it's never a worry. But if you're canning things that aren't high acid, the pressure canner I recommend. I was super intimidated by it. So I actually didn't start pressure canning until like last year, after water bath canning for a long time.
My family had 2 pressure cookers blow on them.
Holy shit.
When I was a kid. And
that's why I was scared.
Yeah. My then brother-in-law just screaming. I think he burnt his balls.
Oh my God, no.
But I was so much younger than my siblings that they were like pushing me out of the room. Like, what happened?
Whoa. Yeah. Like, so like these newfangled ones have all these like special locking mechanisms, and you can see they're lined up right. So I'm like, I finally talked myself into feeling safe about it so that I can do the low acid stuff. But otherwise, I mean, like even with the water bath canner, you can do like all fruits, jams, jellies, pie filling, like whatever. Like I did a lot of water bath this year, as well as tomatoes. But then with the pressure canner, I canned some of our potatoes, and I did green beans and corn.
Oh wow.
And I can't remember what else.
That's cool.
I can't see the shelf all the way from here. Lots. I did a lot.
I want a shelf.
Yeah, we need.
I just have like 9 jars.
We're dreaming of the future. We'll get there.
But you'll
get
there.
This is our prototype. This is our prototype.
This is learning.
Well, it all is, right? Like
I would want to have to learn on 25 acres. Like that was an intense curve that you guys got thrown, you know?
Well, I started canning before we moved here, and I'm super glad I did. And it was a water bath canner in our tiny mobile home kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was like fruit. So like I just tried, and then pickles. And so there was like, you know, I at least had a little head start on the food preservation. I was already fermenting before we moved here, and we had a little 4-foot by 4-foot garden at the last place too. So there was just, nice. And you had some gardening experience. Yeah. But yeah, like this year looking at the shelf, it's so satisfying because it's more than I've ever done before. Like,
it's right over here. That's why we keep looking off camera and going, oh.
Each year has been more, you know, and that's what matters, right? That you're improving yourself all the time.
And, you know, I think we talked about this a little last time we were talking too, as you were talking about your garden from the previous year. And like, I really like to emphasize this with everyone in every conversation that I can, that we're all learning, we're all practicing. Even the most seasoned of seasoned people are still learning. And if they're not, then they're broken, you know, but
it's just like art.
It's I like to use the term LARP, that this whole thing that we're doing here is just one big LARP. Yeah, because we don't rely on ourselves for real.
That's live action role play for those who don't know.
In case anyone's not a nerd.
And we're not talking about foam swords in the park.
No, we're just talking. I'm talking like, I mean, the whole
that's
homestead.
Awesome too.
That's cool too. If you're into it. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm
I don't
okay
want to
with
alienate
that.
your audience, Andy.
But yeah, it's like
sorry.
I like to look at the whole homestead thing as being a LARP, because if all fails right now, because I still work a job and I still have US dollars and all of that kind of stuff, and we have supply chain that's working, and I have a grocery store down the street, until that's not there, this is just us practicing in case something like that were to happen. And of course I hope that never happens, but I feel more and more confident all the time that like if we had a March of 2020 again, when everyone's gouging each other's eyeballs out for a roll of toilet paper, that we'll be sitting back at our home and going, wow, look at all those goofballs. What are they doing? We got it. We're okay. You know, like, of course we won't, you know, if say the whole grid went down, we'd be screwed. We have not LARPed nearly enough. Like we need 10 more years of practicing.
But I keep feeling like as long as you have like a couple months cushion, so you can like figure it out as you go, like we'll be all right.
Well, every day that society still moves on the way it is, we're one day better at being able to function without that in the event that does drop off. So it's like, whether it's growing food or preserving food or working on your own pipes or your house or anything, every step that you take in that direction is just becoming more comfortable with being able to do it yourself. And I think that's a great place for all of us to always be moving towards.
I have way more questions for Kate.
Let's do it.
So okay, it's just to make sure that you see where I'm coming from. Like, I think it's really cool that you were just getting into canning, and I want to ask you some questions, because most of the people I talk to are really afraid of it, and I think it's really, really cool that you just made soup and canned it. It's like really, really cool.
I don't love tomatoes, so it was just for him.
Yeah,
Right.
well, that's the thing.
So I'm pretty fearless about it.
Yes.
We grew these.
I don't have to eat it much.
We
You're
grew
like,
the
I ain't
type of
gonna eat
tomatoes
this. I
on
don't care.
purpose that were specifically for
Yeah,
sauce.
we
Yeah.
grew them for
like
sauce.
Roma type, like the longer ones.
Yeah,
the
the
long
San
ones? San
Marzano?
Marzano.
I don't know.
Marzano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a Z
Nice.
somewhere.
Those are supposed to be good for sauce.
It's amazing. There's like 5 seeds in each one, and it's just flesh.
Oh wow.
And the
Yeah.
skin just comes right off. It was
Comes
amazing.
off. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. That's what I want to do next year.
Do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're nice.
I attempted some seed saving too. We'll see how that goes.
I think that's
Cool.
why my perception of the garden this year was that, whoa, we did so much more than last year. And Kate kind of put it into perspective for me. She's like, well, we can look at it that way from this fruit, this vegetable, but all of this didn't work. And this,
No,
you
we
know,
got no broccoli.
oh my God,
I
our
didn't get any this
cauliflower looks
year
like
either.
it's from another planet, or it might attack the cats. I don't know.
can only hope.
I didn't get cauliflower or broccoli this year either.
Yeah.
I've stopped trying to grow Brussels sprouts because that doesn't work and takes the whole year.
I'm like
It's a heartbreak.
40% there. I might get out of 12 Brussels sprout plants, I might get a meal.
Yeah, it's
we love
unfortunate.
them too, so
I
it
love
sucks
them.
because they're
I
really
know.
good.
I'm gonna
Yes.
keep doing it until I get it right.
So for canning tomatoes, how did you learn what to do? Did you look up a YouTube video or a
I
blog
watched
post?
about 6 or 7 YouTube videos. And just most of them were saying the same thing. I just made sure I disinfected both parts. I had new lids,
Yeah.
new jars actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the lady did a spoon test on the top on the sound.
Uh-huh.
And
That's
the one
fun.
that wasn't done was like so obvious.
Yeah.
And then I took the ring off, I lifted it up, I made sure it was all suction cupped.
Cool.
So I think we should be okay. But I
And
just,
then did you use a recipe from there for how long that you left him in the canner?
yes, I looked all that up too. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't remember the number, but
No, I think it's like 25 minutes, but I
Yeah.
can't remember either.
I
um,
actually left them in a little long because I sort of lost track of time. Being
And
a
with
mom.
tomato sauce, that's not bad because like
Not bad.
long cooking for that stuff's good anyway.
It was
There's
already
certain
long,
things you
but
don't want to do that with, like if you're making pickles, then they get squishy if you leave them
Yeah.
for too long. I've done that before and it sucked.
I started easy. I figured sauce was literally the easiest thing.
It is. It's because it's like already hot because you're cooking it and then just put
Mm-hmm.
it in there. Pickles. That's another thing I didn't say. That is high acidic because you're putting vinegar in it. So those are
Yeah.
fine for the water bath canner. And that's
Okay.
also a good place to start.
My
Like if
mother-in-law
you have a lot
loves
of
into it.
them. I
cucumbers.
should make her a bunch for Christmas.
Yeah, I'll start. That's the thing about the garden. I'm more attracted to eating fruits and vegetables when we have produced them.
Oh, totally. Like that's
It's-
what for our
two
kid too.
completely different worlds, man.
Yeah.
We still can't get our son to eat much out of anything out of it.
No, he takes a lot of pride in helping you.
He loves it. He can look at any herb and tell you what it is. He knows. All the
I
vegetables.
love the videos that you posted of him. He's so cute. I cannot wait for our almost 2-year-old to be to that age where he'll repeat anything I ask him to say in a cute little voice. It's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
Native species. Oh, that was my favorite part.
Species.
Species.
Don't mind me. I'm just saving the planet.
He's so cute.
Yeah, the food that you produce yourself takes on a new flavor to me. It's not just flavor, texture. I get so much more out of it. Like to the point where like when I eat, like when I had our first potato this year, I was like, what the hell have we been eating for the last few months? You know, like have I had a potato in 6 months? You know, because it's like, this is so good. I love this. Whereas normally I don't really care if there's potatoes on my plate or not. You know, it's like, with the exception of mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving, it's you know,
fried guy. Oh yeah.
See, I could pass on the home fries. Like she loves the potatoes.
All the ways. Yeah.
My sister hates potatoes. She can't eat them. She hates all of them. We think she's from another planet.
That's weird.
Well, she should try some that she grew herself, because when I eat those ones I ate that we grew ourselves, I'm just like, this is my favorite food. It goes from one that I can pass
I didn't
on
like before, even, you know,
right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Same thing with tomatoes.
Sometimes I tell him it's from our garden.
Oh,
It's from our garden. I'm like, yeah,
sure. I don't like carrots until we grew.
We grew mango.
Yeah. You're making me too smart with it though. So eventually I'm going to start catching on that we don't grow fucking star fruit or anything.
I am open to some experiments like that. This could be psychosomatic, that I like it better because I believe that I put all the work in, that it came from my soil and and whatnot.
But I think it's because it's fresher, and it's because a lot of the food that we get has been trucked here from very far away.
Yeah.
And in order for it to still be sellable when it gets to us, it needs to be picked before it's actually ripe.
It's picked before it's ripe. It's maybe coated in some wax or something.
So here we get to wait until it's literally ready to go and then pick it and eat it that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like our tomatoes, it's been really dry and hot here still, and it's usually pouring rain all of September. So this is very different for us. So I'm waiting, but I'm about to pick all the green tomatoes off of our vines, and they'll still ripen like on your counter. You can put them in a brown paper bag or in a box, and they'll still.
Tomatoes. Don't tell me that. I don't
want still turn red.
We got tomatoes coming out of our ears. It's awesome.
But you know what?
I'm like, it's too late. I gotta be done with the tomatoes. And
if you have that freezer space, you can just throw the red tomatoes into a Ziploc bag and throw them in your freezer.
And the skin peels after, right?
And then when you get enough, then you can can them, and the skin peels off when you're thaw them, which is
that's awesome.
Helping you with the step. But then I've also heard of people making pickles with green tomatoes, so I think I might do that. I'm gonna try some fermented green tomatoes, and then like maybe make like a green salsa kind of situation. And then I think I want to try to also make some canned vinegar pickles with green tomatoes.
I'd like to try.
You got me thinking about
never
pickled eggs. I'm thinking we
like pickled eggs.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to one if it's in front of me. It's just they're never in front of me, you know.
I've never even had one. It's like that's literally just like from most taverns.
I'm with you, Andy. There,
I don't. That's the thing. I like foods, but that I don't necessarily like go towards or choose. It's like I don't really care to eat until I absolutely have to.
You're like a stranger to me.
That is not my problem at all.
The most uncomfortable chair.
Oh, you want to switch?
I feel like I'm way back, or I have to sit really forward. And
that's why I got this chair.
Yeah, thank you. Took the best chair, moves the microphone.
I know.
This is why I sneak vegetables into your food, like our.
Hey, the smoothies are the best idea. Like we made the popsicles and everything out of the smoothies. That's a good way to get the kids on them.
For sure.
Oh yeah, I just remembered that you were not a vegetable guy previous to recent times, right?
Yeah, I'm still really not. Like I desperately try to be because I know it's right and I know it's gonna be healthy. It's gonna be beneficial to me. I know it because my body immediately reacts to better food, to better consumption.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's very obvious to me, but yet I don't know. I've never enjoyed it, no matter how much it's weird too, because I preach the whole fractal thing, and whatever you repeat will continue and all that, and you can change your perception that way. Yet I try with vegetables and it just doesn't work.
Well, I've heard some convincing arguments before from people saying that we're not supposed to be eating vegetables and that we're carnivores, and that vegetables is part of what's screwing up our diet and our bathroom habits and all kinds of things like that.
I think
that's interesting.
Individuals, I think people are different, and that there's no one perfect diet, but I think there's some people that don't do well with vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
So interesting because, like, first of all, isn't it intriguing that you got two extremes saying that the opposite is bad for you?
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
totally.
So it's like you've gone from like vegan to like mostly plant-based, and you'll have eggs sometimes, but that's like pretty much as far as you go. But it's like it's obvious that that's like just two polar opposites. So the middle, finding your own balance, is a good thing, but also it's like we're all on different frequencies. We all have our own frequencies. So I bet that plays into it as well. Like everything's going to vibrate a little bit differently for us than even the person right next to us sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to ask if Kate was still on the break from meats.
Oh, mostly.
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, I haven't eaten any meat. I broke down and got a thing of Parmesan cheese. Thinking it was going to be the greatest thing I've eaten, and it tasted like nothing. And I went back and got my little nutritional yeast and put it on top. I'm like, that tastes right now.
Is there any chance, was that did it taste more like sawdust? Was it the sawdust?
No.
What we call shaky cheese?
The freshly
we had a block. We had a
Parmigiano, the nice stuff. You could smell it a mile away. It was delicious. I smelled it. I was just like, I miss you. And I tried it, and it was just like,
not so much. Interesting how that
taste definitely changed. And instead of just getting some B vitamins and protein from the nutritional yeast, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, the more I dig, like I think like looking at what humans are thought to have eaten throughout history is a real indicator. And the one thing we can all agree on is that processed food is not on the list of things that they were eating
historically.
So whether you eat mostly animals or mostly plants or somewhere in the middle, if you're not eating processed store-bought food with additives in it, then you're better off.
How far back does milling grain and baking?
A really long time.
I
don't know that,
because that's like realistically that is a processed food.
It is flour. Well, and I mean, so is canning. Canning is an industrial process too, but that's been done for a couple hundred years now. But the wheat has changed the way we grow it, the hybridized, the glyphosate, the way we mill it, and the amount of time that it's waiting after we mill it till when we make something with it. And then everything that's added into it, like even when you go to buy regular flour at the store, half the time it's like fortified with other vitamins and shit that they're putting in it. And if you ever
why'd you do that to the flour? Just give me the flour.
They did that because they took the whole wheat germ, they took the outside of it off and processed it so there's no nutrients in it. And then they added some back that are man-made.
That's enriched.
Calling it good. Yep.
Enriched flour. You see that on most flour you buy is enriched with vitamins.
And then the processes for things like cereal, when it goes through an extruder at an extremely high heat, that changes the grain as well as makes it carcinogenic, they say. So like things like cereals and stuff like that are not as good for you as like sourdough bread, right? So we just ordered a grain mill because I'm digging into this like crazy.
That's awesome.
It's like a tabletop stone mill, an electric one. So we have like wheat berries now, and I'm waiting for my mill to come in the mail so I could start to like mill my own wheat before I bake bread. Wow. And then I seriously, if you're really up for it, will definitely mail you a loaf of like primo
sourdough. I can trust that's real. When I go to a bakery, they're like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, no, I don't want your
a sourdough that's a process, not a flavor, because that's the deal. Yeah.
And that was my confusion.
Me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we trust you. We trust what you would send us.
If
So we'll gladly.
sourdough doesn't upset me gluten wise,
Yeah.
my
so
life
happy.
is gonna change.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because
be sourdough.
you know, you can cook, so you would be able to pick it up in no time. And
She
like
still cries at the loss of bread. You know, can
Oh,
you
it's
make
so-
sourdough pretzels?
yes, you can. I've done that before.
Dude, you can make sourdough like everything.
I've done
Everything.
bagels, pretzels, tortillas,
Yep.
pancakes and waffles. I've done, you know, regular bread.
Is there anything that you think you couldn't make
No.
sourdough wise?
Ham.
Ham, yes. Any bread products?
products, no. Anything that would
Checkmate.
normally have wheat, you can soak your wheat first, and that becomes fermented wheat, and then you can use that. And when you're fermenting it, it's breaking down the gluten, which is the protein, and that makes it more digestible. And so, and a lot of times I think people that use real whole wheat berries ground up instead of the processed flour also have an easier time digesting it and taking it in a more natural form. But
That's
and
where
my
we're
next
going
step
next.
is pasta. I mean, he's the pasta master. He's the noodle
Pastafarian.
He's the king of the noodle nest.
Pastafarian. I
Yeah.
used to go by that title.
Yeah,
Years
yes.
ago.
So
The
I'm
Pastafari, man.
but I'm gonna make it I want to make sourdough pasta. So I'm like gonna work on the
Whoa.
dough. And then you've got to tell me if the dough's the right texture to run through your machine. And then we're gonna make a shitload of sourdough pasta that we can freeze so that it's like on hand. Because I haven't fed the baby anything that's not sourdough. I haven't fed him any other wheat stuff that's not mine.
Mhm.
And I really want him to have noodles because it's cute when babies have spaghetti and they get all
Oh
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just found some videos about people making flour out of the sunflower stalks.
Oh, cool. That's
And we
interesting.
have only one big one, a few decent sized ones, but I'm gonna try it at least with the big one and just
Yeah.
see how that goes. And in the future, when we have the land, I want to grow my own oats.
Yeah.
fun.
Making
yeah.
oat flour and chickpeas for chickpea flour
Yeah.
and all that
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
Yeah. And
If
then
I
as
can't have sourdough, and if I can, then
right.
on the
And
wheat.
even then with the other grains that are soaked, sprouted, or fermented are easier to digest and the
Yeah.
nutrients are more available. So that's
Mhm.
like the way that ancient cultures used to prepare their food was planning ahead more than we do today. You know, we want oatmeal, it's like instant oatmeal. But like they would be like soaking the grains from the night before in some kind of acidic medium like buttermilk or yogurt or kefir, and then like fermenting that, and then you make your oatmeal the next day. And it's really good. And then if there's people who are sensitive to grain or have stomach aches from that kind of stuff, it usually is better doing it that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That could be your answer. That'd be great.
I want to get into all of this stuff more. It's just hard with this smaller house and this our kitchen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
the
yeah.
worst. It's like I
Yeah.
never have the space to create the way I think I can, or just
Yeah.
try stuff. I love trying stuff. Ever since I was a little kid, I'd be in the kitchen making concoctions, just adding
Yeah.
stuff and seeing how it goes. And
You're like an alchemist.
I am maybe in a past life. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing about a lot of this kind of stuff. When you take it on yourself, it becomes I want to say like more than a hobby. You know, it starts becoming like a lifestyle, because like for you know, like the sourdough that we're talking about, it's not something you can do and then set down for a couple months and then come back to. You know, it's like something that you got to keep working at all the time. I mean, it still could be bracketed like a hobby, but it's like it's a hobby that in order to keep a hobby, you've got to stay on it.
Yeah, you have
You
to
can't.
tend to it every day, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like a garden too. You know, it's like you can be a hobby gardener, but there are certain months where you have to do something, maybe not even daily, but you know, you have a 2 or a 3 day cycle that you have to be on. And
At
if
most.
you just don't feel like it for a couple weeks, you walk back out and everything.
Oh,
Well, and
everything
really
went
with
away.
sourdough or with anything else, when you're trying to learn it, you have to keep doing things repeatedly close together in time. And that's when you'll develop a habit and a memory of it, so that you can, like, it's not fun to have to read a recipe every time. You talked about that last time, Kate, that you really like to kind of wing it in the kitchen, right? And be
Yeah.
creative. It's like same with me. And so sourdough baking has always felt like there's too many rules. So I've never enjoyed it the same way as I do cooking. But
Mhm.
with the sourdough, now that I've done it enough times, I understand how to read the dough. I don't have to watch the clock or the recipe. I can tell if it needs more water or more flour. I can tell if it's fermented enough. I can tell when it's time to shape it, all those things. And that only came from me making, it every day for 2 months, I think I did. And then I continued to do it once a week after that. And now I feel like I'm really confident with it. So it's not a burden to do it. It's just part of the kitchen routine.
I really enjoyed when you were doing it every day, though. That was kind of rad.
Yeah, there was
warm bread every day.
And it smells good.
The history nerd side of me always feels like the more we take on ourselves, the more we get a little bit of a glimpse of just how different every day for the ancients, for people in antiquity, it really was. It was like, and from there, and it's an entirely different conversation, but you can kind of justify a lot of the cultural beliefs, and it's an interesting experience, because it's like all of life in the modern world would have to vanish for like, once you start to realize all that's involved with all the things that you'd want and need in your life, to be doing that all yourself, really every bit of it, if the bad thing were to happen, right? If the LARPing ends and the real shit begins, like, there would be no like Netflix and chill really anymore. You realize how different life was just on a
you realize how much
level
everything you would do would be for your life. Like everything would be, there wouldn't be entertainment. I mean, and maybe you would find moments of entertainment and joy and things like that. I mean, but it would be fleeting, and you would take it where you can. Whereas like what you wake up, you don't go, what would I like to do today? You wake up and you do what you need to do. And it's like I was saying with the garden, there's like a 1, 2, 3 weekly, daily, like cycles that you get in. There would be bigger ones for a year. In order to live well, you would have big ones that go over a year, because you would have your preserving food. You would have things that you need to do in the winter time. You have throughout the summer, while you're busy with your food, you would need to be stockpiling wood so that you would be able to keep a fire going to keep yourself warm. And then in the wintertime, you're tending a fire. You're doing all of these things. I mean, I love thinking about that, Andy, like just what would life have been like that far back?
Yeah, I could tell you.
And how that led up to where we're at today.
Yeah. If shit hit the fan, once our 100 pounds of wheat berries ran out, we would not be like making bread anymore. Like growing wheat and harvesting wheat is such a lengthy process for such a small reward
that we've never LARPed,
and we've never played that before. So we would be growing grass and feeding an animal and eating the shit out of that, and like figuring out how to harvest salt so that we could salt cure.
And once we have our grain mill, we'd be hanging on to that to figure out how we can attach a crank to it if we ever get to where we're growing wheat and we get to where we're separating the wheat, to get to where we could grind it to try and make that bread that we remember from the good old
tabletop
days.
LARPing right now.
It's
the first step.
So I had like my first experience trying to save dried beans this year. And so we grew green beans for fresh eating, right? Or like sauteing and stir fry. And then I fermented some into like green bean, dilly bean pickles. Those are good. But then they got away from us and they got big. And then I let them dry on the vine. And then I picked them all, and I was like painstakingly like prying them open to get these dried beans out. And then I went online. I was like, this is a better way. And I was like, oh, they call it threshing or thrashing. And I was like, I've heard that term before.
It's and you're like, I used to listen to Metallica.
And I was like, I know.
I get this.
Like, yeah. So then I throw this. I never listened to Metallica. That's horrible shit. I was like, Venom is what I was thinking of for some reason. Then anyway, I put the beans into just a paper bag. I'm going to use a pillowcase next time because the paper bag broke. But then you just like smash them, and then the pods like all break down, and then in the bottom is just all the beans, and you just have to separate the broken pods out. So I'm like, there's all these like more efficient ways of doing things you would find. But even with that, it was like what are those 6 foot by 10 foot, I think, are cattle panels, and we have 2 next to each other.
The cattle
so it would be 6 feet by like 10 feet of beans. And I mean, I got 2 quart jars full of dried beans, and that was it. So it's like, wow, if you think you're stockpiling a 50 pound bag of dried beans here for a just in case situation, you're like, to produce that same thing would take so much effort. Like
it'll like take you all year
yeah
to get that 50-pound bag. I mean, you
And yet it's
you
like
need to be
$1 at the
thinking.
store.
yeah, and it's super cheap. Yeah, it's really cheap.
You need to be thinking all year about how you're going to get a 50-pound bag of beans.
Yeah.
While you're thinking about every other aspect of your life. I mean, if we're still talking that what it was like in antiquity.
And yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think this is where the intentional communities would come in. I mean, I know that that's more of a modern term in itself. It's like just the way that things used to be, smaller communities for the most part,
yeah. For sure.
Those,
because if you have a small
unaffiliated towns
community
or whatever,
and you got someone who's good at growing beans, and then they spend all year just growing beans to where they can get several 50-pound bags of beans. And that can be enough for your whole community, as long as everybody else is stepping in and doing other things to help that person who didn't have time to stockpile wood to keep himself warm over the winter because he was busy getting your beans.
Well, even
everybody's
like
a puzzle piece.
Right, exactly. But even like not that long ago, 70 years ago, people would come together for harvest parties. And I know they still are doing this in certain places. I had a couple attend one of my workshops online. They have a podcast too called Fabled Remedies. And they are like live in Appalachia or however you say it. When you're not from the Northwest. But they live like in a family home similar to us. That was, I think, their grandparents, the husband's grandpas. And they were telling me about this thing that they have in their town that's called a cannery. And I was like, what is that? And it's like this big giant warehouse. And you go with your produce and they have gigantic like kettles for canning, like pressure canners and water bath canners. And you bring your jars and your stuff, and they have these big places to cook it all down and fill it. And then they'll lower it down like with hydraulic like lift thing into these giant canners. So you can process like hundreds of cans at a time. And this is like a community.
How cool is that?
That's
like,
amazing.
right? And why don't we have those everywhere anymore? And why have I never even heard of it here?
Well, for one thing, because nobody's growing their own food.
Yeah,
or so few people are growing their own food that like, just to sustain that, you need to be in an area where enough people are growing their own food. And then two, people who do grow their own food, a lot of the time don't think about preserving it. They're just growing, for the summer, as a hobby, whatever. And then, I don't know. I could probably think of more reasons.
He told me like I would know what it was already. He's like, well, you'd go to the cannery. And I was like, the what now? And the who and the what now? And then later they took a bunch of their apples there and he sent me pictures, and it was so amazing. And it's just like, I think it was a few bucks or whatever, not much money at all.
Wow.
But I mean, things like that just don't happen today. And even like when we think about what your grandpa was doing here and the community that, they would come together when it was hay baling time or whatever.
Silage filling was the big thing.
The silage filling. Yeah. And we just don't have that. We don't have as large of families as we used to have, like not as many hands to
and
do
even
things.
As I was a kid, it used to be, I mean, we'd have all the family would meet here at this house that we live in now, right after picking all the beans. Because then everyone it would be like kids are playing and the adults sit around the table and they're all breaking and pulling the threads out of the beans and, throwing them in cans while it's running. Again, kids aren't allowed in the kitchen because it's hot in there, with the hot water and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. We did stuff like that all the time, like I say all the time, but I mean like a few times a year. Yeah. And within that, I kind of remember that other people would bring their beans, so it wasn't just what was grown here on the farm, but everyone's little patches, which is kind of starts sounding like that cannery idea.
Yeah.
That cannery idea is like mind-blowing to me. Like it gives me goosebumps thinking about that.
Totally.
That's why you get a good group of people together to buy a ton of land and build some structures on there, some infrastructure as well. Maybe a group can afford something like that, put a cannery on there, put a bunch of different things. I mean, you look at all the different categories of self-sustainability. You got these, if you put some money into it, there's some great stuff out there that you can really utilize.
It's like, we just made a big investment. We haven't even unboxed it yet. We bought a barrel plucker for when we process chickens that defeathers the chickens. And that's an expensive piece of equipment. We decided we were ready to do it, but man, it would be amazing if we had a dozen friends in the area who also all had chickens. That we might need to do 20 or 30 in a day collectively, and then we could all have this one piece of machinery that we all focus
share
around.
a plucker, but we didn't know anybody with a plucker. And we processed 4 times now by plucking by hand, and it takes so long.
And we do quite a few. We've done up to 20 at a time, and we have other friends who do 1 or 2 at a time. And if we make this available to them for a small fee, you know, like we can have chicken parties at our place where people bring it, and, you know, they just, you know, help us pay for the cost of the machine.
Yeah, I think that was something we did this summer since we talked to you guys last. Is we got meat bird chicks and grew them into they were food sized, and then processed them. So that was pretty rad. We just had our first roast chicken from our meat birds the other day, and it was so much better than store-bought chicken.
I might have seen a picture or something.
To harken back to what we were saying about the potatoes or the tomatoes tasting unlike anything else once you've grown it yourself, the chicken that we've been eating since we've been doing it ourselves it's unlike anything I've ever eaten. It's so much better. I did not realize until after a while, after eating this stuff, that it was like, you know, I didn't like chicken for years. I kind of did when I was a kid. I didn't not eat chicken or whatever, but it wasn't what I was going to order off the menu, you know, or anything like that. And I don't know, chicken just wasn't my thing. But then I eat ours, and I'm just like, this is the best food I've ever eaten.
And then the broth from it was some of the best.
And the broth, everything about it.
That reminds me of like game meat, like, you know, you have venison or anything like that. It's a different world. It's like, okay, this is what meat's supposed to taste like.
Yeah, right. It is so different. Yeah, or even grass-fed beef compared to like conventional store-bought beef.
Oh, the feedlot beef that you get at, I don't know, Walmart or whatever. Like that's not even food, I don't think. You know, and the terrible farming practices that go into that. I mean, like, I don't blame you at all for being vegetarian, Kate. Like, I dislike a lot of things about PETA, but one thing they get right is those videos of those places that turn people's stomachs, and they turn people's stomachs for a reason, because I mean, because of what they are. And that is, oh my goodness, like I couldn't be more against that kind of farming practices.
I think that's what gets me upset with some people. Like, you guys know you've done it. You've processed your own meat. If it doesn't, you know, bother you, then that's great for you. But the people who are like, I can't even look at it or else I'll never eat meat again. It's like, you should be looking at it.
Yeah. Exactly.
If it's so bad you can't see it, then why are you doing it? And that's where it's like, if you're going to do it and you're fine with it, that's for you.
That's
and here's the reality. I believe is a reality of right now, is that most people couldn't stand to look at where their food comes from in the meat sense, in the meat world. Most people, I think, really disassociate that it's even an animal, and then they couldn't possibly. So they disassociate that, and they could never bring in and eat in good conscience what PETA shows you in those videos, those feedlot
meat your meat videos,
those meat your meat videos.
And it's more than just our food too. It's just products in general, like the beaver, like ball sack glands,
beaver anal glands
and shit like that.
Yeah, vanilla flavoring or strawberry flavoring or something like that.
Vanilla flavoring.
Yeah, like a bunch of those artificial flavorings have beaver anal gland in it, bugs of different types.
Yeah.
Anything red is going to be a certain beetle.
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever it's called.
That's an interesting subject to me too, is ingredients listed on packages. How many of those ingredients have a dozen other ingredients that aren't listed?
Yeah, how do they actually make
natural
that thing?
Flavoring? I don't touch it.
No,
natural and artificial flavoring.
Anything under the world, or bioengineered.
So. She's got.
I guarantee you, those couple words have a long list of ingredients that go into those couple words: artificial flavoring, natural flavoring, you know, stabilizers. You might see that as an ingredient. Like, what are these things?
Stabilizers.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, growing our own chicken and seeing how that was treated, it's like, and remembering seeing that meat your meat video when I was a kid, and those chickens all stacked on top of each other in those little cages.
It's heartbreaking.
Like so different. We put them in a chicken tractor, which is just a coop that you can move each day. So they're never on the same patch of grass 2 days in a row. And then they're getting fresh grass and bugs. They have sunlight, fresh air. They're not crowded. We had probably 3 times as much room as what's recommended.
At least 3 times.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they just got to move every day. And they were a weird breed that's specifically for meat. So they grow really fast and their feathers don't grow as quickly. And they get really huge tits. So they were like, just, they look like Hummers, or what is that what I want to say? Yeah.
Hummers?
Yeah, like a car, those cars with the
the
really
Hummer?
wide
Yeah.
wheelbase, you know, like that, or like they should be on a hover round with a bag of McDonald's. That's what I kept thinking.
I have a family member that grew those chickens or raised them, but they never got around to processing them.
They kept them.
No.
And they
get
kept
weird.
them for years, and they look like tires.
They survived.
They are alive, and they've been alive
Wow.
forever. He's like, I can't do it now.
No,
Like,
it wouldn't even taste good anymore. It's like,
No.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, they were just like short and round,
So
and they could barely
wide.
walk. And they
oh my
lived a
God.
long time. He's
That's
like, yeah,
so
we just never
funny.
got to those 2, and then it was too late. And it's like, well, let's just.
Did he name them?
I
pets
don't
now.
know. I don't remember.
That's
they were just
that's
part of
so
his egg
crazy.
chickens.
Because we slaughtered at 6.5 weeks.
Yeah.
From
They were
chicks
so young.
to 6.5 weeks. And to compare, we had laying hen chicks hatch a week before them. And it was like the meat bird chickens were bigger than them, like when they were like 2 weeks old.
Yeah. Okay. So to keep that in perspective, so the layers were older. We processed the meat birds at 6.5 weeks.
Yep.
And then another month and a half later, we processed the roosters out of those layers that we hatched. So they were older by a few weeks, and then they stayed alive by a couple months. And
like 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah.
they're what, half the size?
If that, did you see what I had thawing upstairs when you cleaned the kitchen when I wasn't here?
Yeah.
I have one of the roosters we just processed. I have thawing. I'm gonna cook it in the slow cooker and pick the meat off for dog food and then make broth with it. That's the plan. And then next to that, I have 2 chicken breasts that are thawing from the meat birds to make curry tomorrow. And they're in this container, you know, together to thaw. And the 2 breasts from the meat bird are bigger than the whole freaking rooster
Wow.
that's next to it.
These
That's
things
What's
how
the
big it
deal with
is.
rooster? Like, do you eat rooster? Like, is that
Yeah,
okay? Because
You can
like,
eat
I mean,
rooster,
obviously you can eat it, but like,
but it's
you
like
never see it at the store specifically.
no, it's
right?
popular in Asian countries.
they call it
It's
capon.
capon.
Is it different? Is it like
Chinese.
gamier?
It's tougher. The meat's
Okay.
tougher. The muscle structure is different, and it's not, the flavor is not really different. It's just really tough. So you
Oh,
could you
okay.
use it for stewing birds. So if you're going to
Gotcha.
make like if you're going to make soup with it, is a good one. But
Mhm.
also you want to take them really young, because we've processed our older roosters before and they were so tough
Yeah.
that all I could do is make,
Soup.
we didn't eat the meat at all. We just made broth with it, and it was
Yeah.
really good broth. But this time I'm hoping that we can make soup from some of the meat too, but I'm going to find out tomorrow. But
Cool.
if not, yeah, broth is, I mean, it's really excellent broth. We used to
Everything-
sell them
yeah,
to a Vietnamese friend
Only
who
they
would
were
buy
your
them.
neighbors. You could have all that chicken.
I know.
Do
Yeah,
you
we
have,
need to find a couple like you guys
I'll grow the
near
beans.
us, you know, or like, yeah, this
Yeah.
intentional
Chicken.
community, man, that
for
we're
sure.
we're trying to
Craigslist.
grow.
Yeah, try
You
to
can-
find somebody.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
have
mean
this is
necessarily
my
for-
better Craigslist. This network that we have, all of
No,
us.
no. I
can't-
jumped the gun with my Craigslist there. What I meant to say is
Rock
you
it.
could look for birds to get. There might be a farmer within distance of you that would
There
sell
probably
you
is.
like 1 or 2 birds at a time. You know,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 processed animals ready to go in your freezer. Same with like beef or pork. You know, if you can find someone who's like a local grass-fed farmer, and then again through Craigslist, you could like put something out there saying, hey, look, I'm looking to go in on a half a cow with someone. I can't afford the space for a whole half a cow. You might be able to find 2 people to go in with and then get,
Right.
you know, a portion of that, so that you could be getting really good beef, really
Yeah.
good chicken, really good pork, and
Usually,
not have to.
if you find the farmer that you usually they'll help you hook you up with somebody else who wants a small amount.
Mhm.
Like we get a half a cow at a time because we have the freezer space, and that lasts our family about a year.
Oh, that's cool.
But if we couldn't, I think they do I think they might do quarters, or maybe you have to go in with a friend on a quarter. But we know the farm, and they're grass fed, and it's like really good beef. I accidentally thought a rib roast, because I was like, well, oh yeah, that sounds good, roast. And then I was like, oh wait, this is like a prime rib. This is like a Christmas roast. And it was like a Tuesday or whatever. I'm like, okay, we're having really good ass like ribeye.
We had some great.
What's the occasion?
It was so good. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah. So for next year, like, are you guys going to change your beds setup or anything like that in your garden, or?
We got to fix them because a lot of them broke.
Not a lot, right? Just the one, right?
Kind of all of them.
Well, so here's the problem. So if you look at our setup in the pictures, you can plainly see we use like those little corner Lego looking concrete blocks as like our corners to hold the wood in.
Oh yeah.
But we went totally cheap on all of it. We built that garden was not that expensive when it really comes down to it. And we didn't use like the full inch thick wood to really fit snugly into those perfect concrete openings.
And then we put it on small rocks, which are going to shift.
Sure. Well, no, the rocks went around, I think. We already had the beds in before we put the rocks down. But the kicker was that we also didn't put any rebar through the middle, because those concrete blocks have the holes, and what's you really can totally solidify the project by just using that rebar. We just never bought it.
Yeah.
We're like, no, it'll be fine for now. We'll take care of that later down the road. That's a whole point about growing your own food and doing all this DIY stuff. It's the whole save it for later crap, the procrastination. If you have that tendency, it's gonna get like bore out of you after a while. Like it's gonna be destroyed because you can't. Like we were out in the garden every day,
and
every single day.
I had thrown my back out for a few days, and Andy was just watering the garden.
Yeah,
but he didn't know to look for all those bugs and the first signs of them.
Yeah.
Then you told me, and I was like, oh, sure. Okay. And I started finding them everywhere. I'm like, oh,
and then like, here's one. Oh,
in a matter of
400,
5,000.
Every leaf has the eggs, and that's when we lost everything, when I couldn't get out there for just a week in our little tiny.
There was so many moments this year where, because I was much more invested with everything Kate was teaching me and everything this year than I was the previous year. I was excited about it the first year. This time I was really invested. So I felt a lot of the loss, and I felt a lot of the frustration. I was like, about these borers or whatever. I'm just like, how do people grow squash then? What the hell? And
we don't have the land for trap crops.
I know.
Like that. So we don't use any. We're not going to be spraying.
But there was so many. Yeah, exactly. There was so many times where the answer from you was like, they use chemicals. I'm like, fuck.
Right.
Like,
and that size space. Yeah, that's
that.
Usually, I mean,
if we're all working 9 to 5s, we got to have chemicals if we're growing food. Like it's, like realistically, I think it comes down to that. If we're looking back at that ancient past again, it's because this is what we did all day, every day. Yeah. So we were looking at everything all day, every day, and we would see all the bugs, and we would be able to remove all the bugs. And it wasn't an overwhelming task of like, I'm racing home from work in order to get a certain amount of work done at home before I have dinner, before I can get a little bit more in, before I put the kid to sleep. And then it's dark out, so I'm done. Not to mention I'm exhausted, so I'm just done.
And add some podcasting into that.
And somewhere you got to find a time to do a podcast
night.
Whereas in the ancient past, we didn't have podcasting to slow us down. No,
maybe they did. Maybe they had some form.
They had rock casting. They just talked to rocks.
They just threw rocks.
Yeah.
But rock casting, yes. But that, like, the whole day was dedicated. Like I said, it was, everything is for your life. Spending time in your garden was for your life. Making sure that those bugs weren't there was for your life. That was your job.
Kate, you said trap crops. Is that what you mean? Do you mean when you just like leave a certain plant there to attract the bugs?
Yeah, I try to within every bed have stuff that's going to repel certain bugs if it's an option. And then other ones that the bugs are going to love so much more that they're not going to care.
Okay.
There's a certain gourd, like a blue something pumpkin. And if you plant that, you're never going to see a squash bug again, because they're only going to want that. You're never going to get one of those pumpkins because they're going to be destroyed, but the rest of your squash will be better off.
That's interesting because I've never really even looked into different bugs. I know what an aphid is called, and I just call everything I see aphids.
When you lift up the squash leaves, it's perfect rows of these copper eggs.
Yeah.
And when they hatch, they eat the leaf, and then once your leaves are all gone,
And then you can't.
and then the borers will go right into the root.
Oh, whoa.
So I cover them all as they're growing with foil, and then you can sort of see it happening, and you can catch them, or when they're a grub, before the grub eats, you pull it out, and then your plant's fine most of the time. I saved one of the zucchinis.
But the
catching
eggs,
in it.
the little copper
The eggs were the beetles.
Those things.
Sorry,
like,
the squash bugs. Apologies.
okay, so they were like triangles, weren't they, or something?
No, they're perfect little ovals. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely beautiful what they do. They are. It's so
it is
mathematical.
Yeah.
But if you they have these little it's like welding. Like, what is it called?
Oh, a soldering iron.
Like
sort of, but it's like fire. A little, not a lighter, but a little stronger.
Like a torch.
And you just, like a little torch.
Yeah, a little Tesla coil.
And you just pop them. They'll all die, or you just literally pop them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I got I planted red Russian kale the first year we were here, like a big row of it, and I let it overwinter and watched it go to seed so I could see what happened, and then it's like, oh neat, and then we took it out, and then the next year there was just red Russian kale growing everywhere because the seeds were everywhere.
What was the last thing I did? Oh yeah, I just pulled another red Russian kale.
I did not like it. Like it was not my favorite green even to cook with. I mean, I tried a bunch of different things, but
you found
I
that
don't.
too.
And the chickens don't even care for it. But what I have noticed is it always has a lot of aphids on it, and my other stuff doesn't. So I've just started leaving like 1 or 2 in each bed and just ignoring them, and then the aphids go to that, and it doesn't seem to affect the plant either. It just like wants to grow and make more
we
babies.
go chemical free. We try to do whatever we can, like the little butterflies, little white butterflies that are going to destroy your broccoli. Yep, your broccoli and everything. And
that's
like
get
a picture of the female and string it up, laminate it, string it up. They're territorial, so
that's
they
what
won't.
I just heard. Yeah, my aunt from Montana was telling me that.
We didn't do it. I said it 100 times, and then
I'm gonna make some of those because we have a ton of those, and I always have holes in my cabbage. I still use it anyway to make sauerkraut, but it's like I wanted to try that and just like put it on a little wire or something so it'll blow in the breeze over top of
That's a good idea.
So there's little ways to sort of help it along, and if the bugs aren't eating your food, then I don't want to eat my food, you know.
That's so true.
Right? Because if it's sprayed with chemicals and they're not eating it, maybe that's an indicator that you shouldn't be either, for sure.
Oh, we got one hell of a story to tell you. So one morning, Kate goes out to water the carrots. And bunnies just pour out of the soil.
And I'm screaming because I never thinned my carrots. So we lost a lot, but we got a lot.
Yeah, we got a lot.
So it was a jungle. And all of a sudden it's like this furry brown baby just everywhere. And I'm screaming, and my neighbor comes out. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes." Apparently I'm afraid of small bunnies. But we kept them there. They never touched any of my food.
That was the weirdest
so much
part.
Clover from not caring for our lawn.
Or letting it be.
Yeah, just
let it be is right. Yeah.
And they don't touch a single vegetable because the clover's there, that they don't care. They were living
how
in
interesting is that?
Yeah, we have so many.
They go for the tops of carrots anyway. They actually don't eat it like Bugs Bunny.
It's funny,
and the bottom's not going to grow.
It is so deeply embedded in our culture that rabbits are the enemy of your garden.
Yeah.
You know, like we got Mr. McGregor and Peter Rabbit, you know, like you got all these tales of like the bunnies. Like bunnies are bad for the farmer because bunnies burrow underground and eat all the carrots from underneath, you know, like that's like something that's like taught to us through picture books when we're children. And I don't think there's a whole lot of reality behind that. I mean, I've seen rabbits really take down some dandelions.
Yeah.
But
it's cute because they get the stalk of it and then they like chew it down so the little flower bounces around towards
it looks like a farmer with straw or a cigarette hanging out of their mouth with the flower on the end, and then they're just like, it's like
we had like 12
suck it
friends
down.
this summer.
Yeah, we loved them, and we knew what time the mother would come to nurse.
Aww.
They only show up at night in the evening to nurse, and they leave their babies. They don't want any predators. So we would go inside. We make sure that we weren't out at that time. So this little bunny family could just have a lovely life. And as soon as they moved out, we got a bunch of rubber snakes, and we had no squirrels, no chipmunks, no bunnies.
Yeah, that helped a lot.
Just rubber snakes in every bed.
We
And you
were
gotta move
having
them around.
we were having a problem with our tomatoes though, so we had to put some chicken wire around the plants,
Yeah.
just the first 4 feet. And then after that, nothing was touched because
Yeah.
they were just like they were about to get ready to be picked, and we'd come out the next day and they'd be bitten in half.
But we
Yeah, we've
also
got
left
some of that going
them.
on.
We left them 2 or 3 plants because we planted
That's
22
right,
tomato
yeah.
plants. Like, this is ridiculous. So we left some uncovered so
Yeah.
they would just have something to eat, because we're not going to eat it. Why not share it with our
For
little,
sure.
our little
More of that
buddies?
sacrificial type thing, you know?
Yeah, I
Totally.
always try to make sure when
Absolutely.
I plant more for, you know,
For
And shit,
nature.
we're in
We're gonna-
suburbia right now too.
we're in the middle of, we
We
can't,
don't get that
get
many.
chickens. We
Yeah.
Yeah.
legally cannot have chickens
Yeah, it sucks.
unless we keep them in the house.
Keep them in the basement.
No, it's
all
like, I
noisy
don't
when you're
know.
trying to
It'll be
podcast.
part of Andy's podcast.
It's gonna be something I talked to a guy about soon that like knows a lot about like Black's Law and stuff like that, because I've never heard anybody talk about that kind of stuff in terms of like what they say we can and can't do with our own land and
We're not
and things like that.
zoned for
yeah, the
farm
zones.
animals.
Like I
Right.
wonder how that plays into the whole, you know what I'm talking about, where people are now like resisting arrest on a whole new level and getting
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
I'm trying to get to the bottom of that because I don't understand what's
She-
true and what's like
she said we could fight it.
kind
but
of
it's annoying.
programming
Yeah.
or like you know, feeding us fake shit to get ourselves in deeper shit or something, you know. Some of it's true, some of it's false. Like people claiming to be a sovereign citizen, it's like, well, those two words don't go together, so you're full
Right.
of shit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so I need to get to the bottom of that, and I'm gonna
It's-
ask him about like the zoning and you know what you can do
Well,
with your own
so-
fucking land. Like
So much of that
That's a
too,
person.
you know, it's like you may be very well and right that there are not, there's like a direct ordinance that says no chickens on your block that you're in your county, in your city, in your state. But has that ever been enforced is a question. you know?
According to our neighbor, because I was telling him, I go, yeah, I want to get some chickens. He's like, good luck. You got to call the city. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's my land. I can have
this
chickens.
is early.
And he said those guys 2 houses down lost their chickens, and a few houses down over there they had a duck and some chickens.
Yeah,
and
so
they
it's
were
being
forced to get rid of
enforced.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
But is that because
happened.
you have a shit neighbor that's ratting these people out, or is that because they're like,
most likely.
Yeah.
that's probably
But-
what it is?
Because
right?
that's what happened to a place I lived at in a city before I met you, Lanny, where we had a few chickens, and you know, sure enough, the police themselves showed up to inform us that it wasn't okay, and they, you know, had some stuff printed out to show. And it was like, so why are you here? And they're like, well, because your neighbor's been calling 911 every day telling us that you have chickens that are making noise in your backyard. And it's like, okay.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
not like you're gonna have roosters or like us, where because we hatched 19 eggs for our laying birds this year,
Mhm,
and what did we get out of it? 11, 12.
mhm.
12 of those were roosters.
12.
Oh man.
So that's 7. That leaves us 7 laying hens out of all of them. And so just before we slaughtered all those roosters, it was so fucking loud outside. Like in the morning, I mean, I know inside I can hear them too, but like in the morning, and roosters, when they're just learning to crow, they sound so retarded. They're like, "Ah," like you're strangling them while they're trying to crow.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, it's super funny sounding. And so there was just a bunch of all these like you know, pubescent young roosters making horrible noises from outside.
On the contrary to my chicken story in the city, we spoke with Shane Jones of Inquiries of Our Reality,
Yeah.
and he lives in Detroit. And I think he said he has chickens, as well as he's aware that several of his neighbors have chickens, because in the quiet of the morning, he can hear them all over the neighborhood.
Oh,
But they're
cool.
he says that they're not allowed there.
Yeah, they're like a few blocks from like the 8 Mile. They're like in Detroit, and it's like
They're in it.
they've got I think like a lot. I think they got more chicks too, and and ducks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
but I think that has to do with like some broken infrastructure of that territory and stuff too. So
well, and then your neighbors, if your neighbors are doing it too, nobody's renting each other out, there's not a problem.
Yeah, if everyone's cool with it and nobody's enforcing it, who cares what the books say?
Yeah.
One neighbor would be cool, the other one's rent, so we don't know who will be there.
Yeah.
This is just another reason why this is not our forever home.
So next garden, there might not be one here. We might hold off, because if I start a garden, I'm not going to leave this house in July.
Right.
Yeah, that would be heartbreaking.
That would be really, really hard.
Grow attached to it for sure, on like a deep level. Like I was out there every day. I would get out of the car, and instead of going to the door, I would just find myself walking to the back.
Yeah.
We did a good job.
We moved into here Memorial Day weekend in 2019, and I had already planted the little 4x4 square foot garden at our last place, but we rented from my parents, and my dad had planned to remodel that place and put it up for sale. So I just kept going back and like harvesting it and like taking care of it.
Nice.
Visiting next door to my parents. Yeah.
But we're hoping that within the year, maybe something magical will happen, and we won't be in this house. We'll be in something better with more land, maybe more people around. Who knows? It's just early, but we're like dead serious, looking, and obviously through podcasting, this is a beautiful network of people that we have to kind of bounce ideas off of. And there's other people out there, good people in the community, that are looking to do something similar, like let's all get together and figure this out, and it feels good, because I've been asking this question on podcasts for 2 years now, like, where does this lead?
Yeah.
Where does this beautiful thing that we all have going on? We're all on each other's shows, and people are enjoying the conversations, and we seem to be getting somewhere. Where is it going? And I think it's going to a place, on one level at least, similar to what you guys have going, on a bigger scale.
Yeah,
that's what I'd love to see out of all of it. Is that even if we're spread out, even if we're really far apart from each other, like, I mean, even like Adam's like close by, we drive down and see Adam, but that's still pretty far. It's like a
4-hour highway drive.
4 hours on the interstate. It's
not an every Friday thing.
No. It's an excursion when we go, especially with kids and everything. It's not, we can't just hop in the car and go. But we're close enough that we do get to see each other, and we bounce ideas off each other when it comes to like homesteading stuff. Like we're dealing with approximately the same territory,
very similar land and like water and blackberry bushes and other things like stinging nettles.
We have the same invasive species of plants, stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, we're and then we got like buffalo and legs, a false reality check. They're all the way over in Idaho. They're even farther away,
southeast Idaho.
But it's like, I don't know, it's kind of comforting to know that we're slowly developing this really long stretched out spider web, and then even going all the way to the East Coast with other people like yourselves, I don't know what you guys are looking for doing, but even if you just move out from where you're at to get a little more rural, so you can have a little more space, so that even if it's not more space, if you want to have chickens, you can get chickens. Like that would just be so great for you guys and for your boy. How old's your boy now?
He's about to turn 5. He just started karate today. Martial arts.
We did that with our older one for a little while before
2020 hit.
Of course.
You know what we mean?
Yeah.
It's funny. Awesome. It's like we walked in there and it was immediately the opposite of what sports ever felt like for me. I mean, even though I excelled at sports, I still didn't like the culture that I was being put into. It was just, everything was all the mindfulness that we talk about on our podcast and shit. And it's like being instructed to these little kids who are looking at it like, this is cool fighting, so I'm going to listen to whatever these people say. And I'm like, this is a dream come true.
If I get to be good, I can hit this person, right?
Oh man, I mean, it's just, yeah, we're really happy about it just because it's like and we found out that half the people there are like homeschoolers as well.
And 3 of the instructors are homeschoolers.
Yeah.
2 of them are
Awesome.
a married couple, and they've been doing it for
like 20 years
20
or
years,
something
and
like
they
that.
gave us a wealth of information in 30 seconds, and everyone's like, you're coming back, right? We're like, yeah, we're gonna.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really cool stuff.
See, these sound like people who'd be potential to go in on some beef with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like eventually, you know what I mean?
I don't
like
eat beef though.
Networking.
Oh, you don't
I don't eat beef
know.
or pork. I don't know what religion that is. I'm not a religious person, but as you obviously know, but yeah, I just I can't do it anymore. I eat birds. I'm cool with the fucking birds, but I don't even eat fish anymore. I really loved seafood, but I am just, I mean, maybe I sound like a dirty liberal hippie, but I fucking hate what we have done to the oceans. We're depleting the fucking supply of fish, and
I've never contributed to that.
no, she's never liked seafood. And like maybe I am falling for something there. Maybe that's not all the way true, but I don't know. That's cognitive dissonance. That what I'm seeing is that we're causing a lot of damage there. I think the damage is real that we're doing. There's a lot of psyopy shit going on to control those narratives and everything. You know what I mean?
Oh, the damage that they are doing.
Absolutely. And blaming the populace on all of it.
And then using that to control us.
Choice but to live their way.
Yeah.
I can't even get a freaking chicken.
So I acknowledge that. And it just, for me, I don't know. I haven't even figured it out yet. Cause like, it's not that I don't miss legit beef burgers. I do, part of me does, but turkey burgers are fine. But, there's something about the level of intelligence on these animals that it just feels like I need to sit with it for a while.
Yeah.
For a long while. Pork's a really fucking hard one because I'm an omelet guy and I love ham in the omelet and everything.
Well, and spend some time with some pigs, man. It's a really hard one on the other side of that, you want to talk about intelligence. You want to talk about pigs can be companions like a dog.
Absolutely.
Like if you view pigs through the right lens for a long enough time, you will see no difference between a pig and a dog. Right. And the only difference that about because of having eaten it before is like bacon is amazing, right? Like that's inside of that pig. Sausage. And and to my knowledge, like dog meat's not great that I know of. But what are probably my what's my reference for that? Just some racist Chinese jokes.
Well, my problem is I'm always thinking on like both scales. Like I feel that connection. I see the intelligence, and then I also understand the whole life eats life. Everything is matter, and like fucking super psychedelic scaled out.
Yeah.
So it's like, which reality do you want to live in? Which scale of reality are you accepting? Because you're killing thousands of things as you step every day as well. But they don't.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to be
comfortable with.
I want you to know I'm not trying to push the pork and beef on you. I just figured you did eat those things. And I'm always trying to get people who do to move in the direction of eating like grass-fed and sustainably farmed and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I know is difficult for people in small spaces.
For a year
That's a beautiful thing. Like
it's much different than going to a restaurant and getting a cheeseburger with 100 different tormented cows in it.
Inside one ground beef, because you don't even know that your ground beef comes from one animal.
And our half cow comes from one family to our family.
Yeah.
Like it's coming from, we know the name, we know where it's raised. Like they're if I needed to, I could walk there. I wouldn't call it walking distance. It's a few miles.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I completely understand. I mean, as a meat lover, I completely understand. Again, I'm just like, I'm sitting with like a philosophical problem in my head. That's what it is.
That's amazing. And I think that's so great. I think that a lot of people there are a lot of people who never consider their food, period. Food is a thing that tastes good and that's it, and a lot of those people are mostly eating at McDonald's and stuff like that, which is sad for its own reasons and stuff too. But it's, there are kids out there. I'm reminded every once in a while that there are kids right now who are like 12 years old who've never picked and eaten an apple or anything. They've never removed food from a plant and eaten it.
I didn't until I was 40.
Yeah, right.
It's that's we're so disconnected from our food that I bet a lot of people think you're crazy just for thinking and being philosophical about your food, Andy. And that's so the opposite
growing
for
it
me.
at all.
Yeah,
On
right.
Kate's part. Yeah, she
No, it
was
seems like a lot of
famed for
work.
doing any of
I
it.
can get that at the store.
It is a lot
Yeah,
of work.
right. No, I mean, well, I mean, we put all this work. Did we pay less for the chicken that we raised?
No, we paid more.
No, I think we ended up paying more.
But if you compare it to like the pasture raised, like like Whole Foods, whatever, we probably paid around the same amount as that.
So,
but it's like better quality than that. Like,
but how many people would hear that we paid more for chicken that required having to move every day? And I had to hunch down into this thing and refill water and put food in there. Like, so I paid more for all the food that went into it, and for the, between the cost of the birds themselves and then the food that went into them. And then you take all this labor that went into it, and people are going, so you did this for something that you end up paying whatever we could extract it out to be a few bucks a pound. Instead of paying 70 cents a pound for the stuff at Walmart.
Yeah, or going to get 99-cent 6-piece chicken nuggets from Wendy's or whatever. Yeah.
Well, this is a problem with currency. I mean, it's it's the priority. It has to be in the world that they've coaxed us into.
Sure.
Or who's they anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
Who's
that ego side of all of us?
Hey, go ahead.
We're growing loofah sponges.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that took up a whole arch.
Yeah,
and it's gonna take a year to even use them, all just to wash our dishes.
Hell yeah!
So you dry them for a year?
Is that dry them for a year?
Same with
you can eat them young if you need to.
They're really cool.
I want to same with the birdhouse gourds. Oh my god, birdhouse gourds are the coolest thing to grow. They're like giant dildos with like face on them. They're huge, but but the things themselves you carve out as. You have to leave them for a year again, right? And then you carve them out into birdhouses. You're going to paint them beautifully.
The gourds that you turn into bowls. And every time I look at them, I'm like, these bowls will literally last. So my great grandchildren will be eating out of these that I grew and made. And
that's crazy. So cool.
Yeah. So we're growing
that's awesome.
All the dumb stuff that we can't
the fun stuff
is living.
Oh, I like that. I want to mess around with some of
I'm going to have one butternut squash.
But a million.
You got a bunch of bowls that you're going to have nothing to put in.
Yeah, absolutely not. I am growing soybeans because, I don't eat the animals, but
yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Andy, I heard your talk with Monica Perez.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome.
Thanks for mentioning
Monica's awesome.
In the beginning of that. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
She is awesome. That was a great talk. I was so excited that you mentioned Lamb, the Christopher Moore book, The Gospel According to Biff.
What a cool connection.
Yeah, and she's like, that's blasphemy. She shut you down hella hard before you could even describe what it was. It was I haven't read that. Maybe it was new when I read it. It was so long ago.
You were reading it when I met you.
Yeah. Okay. So it was 13 years ago.
That's so cool. Yeah, I probably read it even longer ago. Yeah, a long time ago.
It was such a good book that I don't know, it's sat with me for a really long time, and I come back to it a lot. I
might have him on.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, down the line. We're chit chatting. So,
oh, cool.
And I wanted him to talk about Lamb, of course, because that was my favorite. And he's like, just keep in mind, I wrote that 20 years ago.
He's I don't remember it. You need to read it.
I'm going to talk way over it anyway. It's not going to be about the plot. So.
I read a lot. I've read a lot of his. I have a lot of his books on the shelf. I think
Christopher Moore is a hidden gem for most people. I would say, just younger people. I don't know if he's still relevant in the way he was relevant to me. He was he was like Chuck Palahniuk from Fight Club, right? It was like a very. Man, the way he wrote just surprised you all the time.
Yeah, it was just this comedy you weren't expecting almost.
A story about a whale with, what was it, Bite Me?
Fluke?
Written on its tail.
Was that Fluke? Although I know why the winged whale sings or whatever. Yeah, I had
bizarre tales.
There was one called something, The Dumbest Angel, Stupidest Angel. It was a Christmas story. That was somebody just said, here, read this. I was going to take a Greyhound back from Seattle, and they were like, take this book with you. You can, because I didn't have my headphones or anything. And I was all hungover, and I read that whole book on the way home from Seattle. I was like, this is so good. And then I was I think I read that one twice. and then was
this
getting
is
all these other ones.
this is a niche conversation for
It
sure.
is totally. We've lost everybody.
I believe the stupidest angel was the angel from Lamb that he communicates with.
Yeah. No, I didn't read Lamb until way later. But that was made me happy. But
you blew both our minds. We listened to it separately. And I came home from work. I said, oh, I listened to Andy with Monica, and her eyes lit up, and like it was like we said it at the same time. He mentioned Lamb.
That's funny. It's like you haven't read that, but you just heard me like talking.
But it's on
it's
on our shelf, our collective shelf that it's and you were reading it when I met you, and we've talked about that whole book. So it's like I'm gonna notice that book anytime it's brought up in any capacity. So that was really cool.
Yeah, so we had Monica and her son here.
That's awesome.
And it was really interesting to see our property from that perspective of like city dwellers.
Big city dwellers.
Big city like LA, Brooklyn, Atlanta, like big cities. Because we can sometimes be like, oh, we're not doing enough and we're not real homesteaders and we're not as far into this as we should be by now, kind of.
We can really feel like, I know I was using the word LARPing earlier, but we can really feel like we're faking in a lot of ways, because we're just trying, we're just doing stuff. We're just throwing things in the ground and hoping it comes up, stuff like that. And then to have those two city dwellers come out and
like, wow, Monica's enthusiasm, she's like, wow, about like everything. And then her son, he's like 6, I think he's just turned 17. He was a picky eater, right? Mm-hmm. She called him that. But he went around and like tasted everything that was on a plant. Like in the kitchen, he was hesitant to try the stuff I was offering him. But when he was outside, he was like he tried the green beans. He ate a carrot from the ground without rinsing it off first. Like
that's awesome.
He ate a pear off the tree, an apple off the tree, raspberries, blackberries. And I was like, this is such a testament to what it is to like grow food and know it's food. Because he's holding this pear and he sounds just like Monica. He was like a mini me of her. He's like takes the bite and he's like, they tell us you can't just eat this stuff off the tree. So he's like, in LA you can't just take food off of a plant and like eat it.
They really reminded me, they informed me. I hadn't really thought about it, but like if they were to see blackberries growing in LA, they would never eat them for if no other reason, because of the air that they're growing in, but really because they're being sprayed. And if they're not, they're being peed on by homeless people. Like there's like a number of reasons that they wouldn't want to consume that if it was growing wild in that area. Or, like we talked about dandelions at one point and the beneficial properties of dandelions. And they're like, well, we have those, but they don't take care of their own lawn. And they're like, we wouldn't eat anything out of our lawn because it's being sprayed with stuff. It's like that's whatever it is, they're not getting the natural version of it in the city. And that was really it was kind of daunting to me to think about that in the extreme other direction, as we're going, wow, we can eat like everything that's on our property, even the stuff that's poisonous. If you only eat a little bit, you probably won't die.
Or if you eat it this way, or like things like stinging nettles that used to be just like the bane of our existence.
I have nettle tea.
I dried a bunch this year to make nettle tea, and like we made nettle pesto and like sauteed like spinach.
It feels so good to eat. I feel like I'm conquering the nettle of that. Like, this thing sucked. I hated it. It hurt. It was a bad thing. And I would have wished that it didn't existed. Mm-hmm. And then we take a step back and we go, wait, these things are edible. Let's take that. Instead of being afraid of it and wishing it wasn't there, consume it and make it a part of us and make me be alive.
But and it's medicine. Like, and the same with dandelions. Like, I remember my uncle just like always just, pick these out with this kind of a thing and get it by the root so it doesn't come back, like so you can have this perfect lawn.
Because they're ugly.
Oh yeah,
but they're beautiful little flowers, and like every part of it is usable. The root is medicine. I made a salve with the flowers and olive oil and beeswax, and it's like anything, diaper rash for the baby, and like mosquito bites. Summer is scratches and
if I get a
scrapes.
cut or something, I put a little of that
Yeah,
on
it's
there.
been the best stuff. And it's just like, those are the things they tell you are throwaway things. It's
I
like
think
medicine.
there's something to be said about like the word magic, spell casting, this word weed. You know, it's always a negative thing when Kate's pointed out so many different like amazing nutrient properties of these certain weeds that we have growing even in our random little suburbia. And it's just like, and then of course you got the mother of them all, the ultimate word for cannabis, the weed,
that illegal drug.
Of course. Well, not really too much anymore
I
because
know,
they're gonna somehow try to use, I don't know, marijuana and psychedelics to help their, I don't know. I don't understand why they would allow the legalization in those areas.
I love psychedelics. I don't consume them a ton, but I love them for a multitude of reasons. But then when I see what's been happening with it recently, with the legalization of it, and like, I don't know, it really makes me put that stink eye on and look at it.
Yeah, you and Monica talked about that a little bit too.
But I wanted to add one more thing to the weeds word and aspect of that even like they have medicinal properties and stuff, but you were mentioning trap plants earlier. A lot of those are weeds, a lot of the time by not weeding, a well-kept garden is a well-weeded garden. Well, sometimes leaving those down and low, the bugs get on those instead of the plants that are up high that you're trying to take care of, and they can be good.
Or certain plants like to grow in certain types of soil because it's lacking something, and then it puts that thing in the soil. So like in the herb garden where I don't have anything planted right now, I've let that patch of dandelions go. I'm going to leave it until next year, and I'll move them out if I need to, but they're not hurting anything. They're helping protect that soil and provide nutrients. Yeah.
It's all a cycle.
Yeah. We wanted to do a medicinal herb garden for, just grow a bunch of stuff, but none of the seeds didn't take. So we had.
Yeah. I've had a harder time growing herbs from seed. I've found I need to get starts for most stuff.
Yeah.
But
so
like now.
Nettle.
Yeah. Wow.
We want to get nettle because I'm drinking nettle tea and I'm ordering it online and all this other stuff because of the benefits for
especially for women. Yeah, there's a ton, and
especially with
through pregnancy and
Does nettle grow around your guys' area?
I have never seen it.
Wow.
So
there's so much. Our little guy got behind the milk house, like a section of the barn, and this little alleyway, and then Chud was going to get him, and then all of a sudden he just started crying and then like running, like he was embarrassed for hurting himself, so he's like running away from him, just bawling, and he caught him, and he's got all these little white dots. He just must have grabbed it. Like it was his first real experience with it. We got calamine lotion
in the woods. We could probably look for it.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it grows around here.
Yeah, just go touch everything until
I feel like if it's growing in your area, it's probably growing in ours because again, like the climates aren't.
But so here's the thing: is it grows so thick here, like right here on our property, that like when you go out into our wooded section, it is anywhere that there's not trees is nettles that get up to 7 feet, 8 feet tall at their height.
Send
right.
So
it's like you can't see them, but there are places that are within a 5-mile radius from here where you cannot find a nettle anywhere you look. So it's like there are places where it just thrives and thrives and thrives, like our property. Like we could not get rid of them. My grandpa used to try to get rid of them, and he just realized, no, we live with them. There's nothing you can do about it. But yet, if you go on to the other side of Deer Creek over there, it's like it's hard to find any on that side of that creek. So and that's exact same territory as we're on. I mean, we're talking a half mile from here even to get to the other side of that creek. So I don't know, it has something to do with something that I can't, that I bet nobody can see. It could be part of the mycelium network.
I was
telling it to grow here, don't grow there. Maybe it's because our soil's not as good over here, but the nettles are helping the soil heal.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's our job to grow up big, die down, and compost over and over again in a natural cycle to try and heal this area, but it's doing good over there, So it's hard to say if they would take off or not.
Yeah,
That's
and
another project we were thinking of is mushrooms. We wanted to grow
Yeah.
like lion's mane and other things like that.
I want to start now because
Yeah.
it takes a few years.
some
even.
you can do some of that stuff with kits inside even.
Yep.
And while
Yeah.
that might not be the most sustainable way to do something, it would be a really good way to learn about the life cycle of a mushroom.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
true.
would be something to do for sure. We have so many wild mushrooms around our area here in the Northwest. It's abundant.
Oh yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're growing turkey tail on Finn's sandbox.
Awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, turkey
That's
tail's
cool.
a
Wood,
good
and we
one.
just put it around
Yeah, we had
the
these.
logs and stuff, and one of them
Yeah.
looks like it looks like turkey tail. I don't know yet. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
really
Look into it a
find
little
out,
more.
but
His sandbox is this like a big old oak tree cut down or a maple tree, and these big blocks of it just as the border, and then
cool.
just a ton of sand. So he can
Mhm.
never dig through the bottom. That's what I was always doing as a kid. I was just getting the whole thing covered in mud and dirt and disgusting shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
it's like a foot deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got mushrooms growing all over, and it looks just like turkey tail. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
yeah, they're covered
Well-
in sand, but that's fine.
We probably should wrap it up here soon. I know I had one more question and I lost it, but
Yeah, we could wrap up. We probably have two sons who are either gonna lose it soon or are falling asleep or something.
if the baby
Past
falls
your
asleep, I'm gonna be
bedtime.
It
angry.
is way past my bedtime.
Yeah, my,
Oh yeah, and you guys are later in
3
time
hours
than
ahead, and
us
it's
too,
like
yeah.
almost my
Yeah,
bedtime.
we're in the future.
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
great.
You guys know how to time travel?
Hell yeah.
We're doing it right now.
That's
It's,
so crazy.
I've been watching these new Beavis and Buttheads. I don't know if
Oh,
you're
right,
if you're
that
dumb
Do the
enough to like
Universe
Beavis and
or whatever?
Butthead. They
Yeah.
had one where they figure out how to time travel by walking over the time zone line so they can go back in time, and they keep hurting themselves and then being like, oh, we should go back before you broke your arm. So they cross again. And they just it keeps getting worse and worse.
That's
It's
awesome.
It escalates very quickly.
It's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Well, I'll have to message you when I think of that question that I couldn't
Yes,
remember
please. I'm
to
available all
ask.
of the times.
Yes. Go. Yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's been a pleasure talking to you guys again. I think last time we talked was like April.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
something
that we
like
should
that.
I think we should try to do this again before spring, and
Yeah.
kind of talk about our winters. I like this. We just kind of catch up on what the summer was like, and then we do it again, and we'll catch up on what the fall and winter were like.
Mhm.
And
I think that's
this is-
great.
Biannual.
I would love to.
yeah.
And it
maybe,
doesn't have to be the only time we talk, obviously.
and I was gonna say maybe we could do more than just that, and
Sounds good.
do other great stuff too. So
Always,
Yeah.
man. Sounds like a plan.
For
Yes.
sure.
Love it.
All right. Well, and I'll get a hold of you about when I'm gonna wrap my head around how to ship some bread.
Yeah, without it costing
Yes.
$32.
and we'll jam a bunch of nettle roots in there too.
Just
And you
into
just
the
Hell
bread.
yeah.
stick them under the ground and see what happens.
Yeah,
maybe
and
I should
I
look
love-
Take over the
into that.
neighborhood.
That is my favorite. My new thing is planting seeds from grocery stores and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, maybe I should just see if I should read a little bit about the seeds, because maybe there's pods or something out there I could shake into a baggie.
What,
already.
on nettles?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it's
there's-
dry right now. I mean,
There's a lot of seeds.
yeah,
out
I've never
there.
really looked into the seed aspect of
Yeah,
it.
you know,
Maybe I don't need to.
well, they grow like weed. There's the seeds are like clusters. They're flowers that they look kind of like loose
Like
buds.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
we could
they're like in the
cut
mint
some of
family,
those
I
off.
think. Yeah, catnip,
Cool.
mint, that kind of stuff.
yeah, catnip, mint, weed. They all kind of have some similar ways that they
Mm.
grow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because we were growing catnip, weren't
We were Eddie ate it all.
we? Our fat cat ate it all. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not from that, but
just too much catnip.
yeah, he
Yeah,
just
we-
overdosed, man.
He died
Partied
grew it
too
too.
hard.
We grew it too. We have one cat that likes it, and the other one didn't seem to notice.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of cats, yeah, one of them's yelling at us.
It's like, come shake my food dish. I can see the bottom.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Yes.
funny.
I just have to put one in. He can feed them and they won't eat.
Yeah,
I have to make the noise.
it's ridiculous.
They're such jerks. Cool, man. Well, stay in touch. And
Absolutely.
Kate, it was great talking to you again.
You too.
And yeah,
Yeah.
We didn't even get to tell
why
about
don't-
Tapache or kombucha.
I know we didn't even mention like
What?
the impact
That's-
that Tapache
yes.
had on our summer, man. That
Well,
was
no,
so
okay.
amazing.
Sorry, we got
I guess
another
we should-
hour. Go ahead.
Yeah, we should go. Just
And the
another
podcast
minute.
starts now.
Yes.
This is the stuff we can't tell you. This is going on Patreon.
Yeah, if you want to hear the kombucha
Yeah.
and Tapache talk, you're
So,
gonna have to
you
go behind the
started
paywall.
fermenting some beverages since we talked about it, huh?
I did. I made a successful ginger bug. It's chilling in my fridge for when I'll need it again. Kombucha was a success.
Absolutely.
Then we had we got fruit flies in one of
Oh,
them.
yeah.
But we didn't know, and then
That happened to me with my vinegar this year. It sucked.
Yeah.
I went to
Making
check
apple
on
cider
it. I
vinegar.
opened the cabinet doors
you
and
can't even breathe.
I was
They're
like, oh my God, what happened? I felt like I was in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
it was sad.
So that was a little sad. That
So
was
now
a
I have like
setback.
20 scobies just chilling out in their little Scobie hotel.
You
And
could just
Yeah.
leave them until you feel interested in them again. It's great.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. And the Tapache, my God.
it was getting
So-
expensive because he was like on like 12 pineapples a week.
So
I-
here's the thing. Like and she's doing it to the grow tent too. And that's our cat's scratching the shit out of my grow tent.
Oh my God.
Lord.
No.
Because I grow other things inside. But yeah, what the hell was I saying? What were we talking? Oh yeah,
Tapache.
the
Tapache.
Tapache.
Yeah.
So I always used to, when I was like younger in my 20s, would love a cold, super fresh beer if I was working outside.
Yeah.
But now Tapache has completely filled that and like completely replaced it as like
Yeah.
the greatest, most refreshing beverage I've ever had in the summertime. Hands down.
Okay.
That is
Had to say
so awesome. I mean, that's so true for me too. I am an alcoholic of a long time. I used to drink 20 beers in a night
Right.
because
we
I
talked about
had
that.
no respect for myself.
Same here.
And I had when I quit drinking, I had a really hard time replacing that with anything besides water, which didn't replace it at all.
Right.
Because it's, I don't know, there was something that was missing from my life until Tapache came around, where I was like, wow, this satisfies that part of my brain.
But you know what? Do you want to level it up next time?
Sure.
Okay. Think of a Corona with a lime in it. Put a squeeze of lime into your Tapache. It is so good.
Ooh,
It
that's
was like an
interesting
accident. We were
idea.
having some when we were eating Mexican food and we had some limes on the table and Chud squeezed it in there. He's like, that's really good.
I was like,
Oh,
you know, what's stopping the lime from going in with the pineapple? Oh yes.
Right.
What?
yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
It's next level. But yeah, it really like it unlike any kind of kombucha, certainly any kind of soda pop or anything like that, you know, that was the
No.
first thing was like I tried non-alcoholic beers and
Mm.
I don't know, I wasn't
It's a
into it.
tease.
Yeah.
And then
Weird.
and then I was trying soda pop and that was entirely too much sugar and I just wasn't into it. And I just kind of eventually like said, okay, I just have to leave this empty void in my life to like move forward. And I quit trying to fill it. But some of these fermented beverages were like in the zone, but I wasn't even thinking like that until I had probably my first sip of Tapache and I went, whoa, here it is. Like, this is that satisfaction that I've been like missing from my life since I quit drinking.
Did you
So
guys
weird.
use any herbs or spices in it? Like there's the traditional Tapache has like cinnamon sticks sometimes and star
we did
anise.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did just the cinnamon sticks.
I
Yeah.
think the cinnamon sticks helped in the aspect that Chud's talking about. Really,
Because he hates cinnamon. He's like, no. I'm like, no, you're not
It's
going to know
different,
that
yeah.
it's there.
it's a different way, and I think it helps because I can still taste what the cinnamon is doing. And like you said, I normally don't like it, but for some reason it's working. And
Yeah.
yeah, it makes it taste like a
It works
refreshing
together.
beer. It's weird.
Super
But it was
good.
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
too expensive because he'll
And
drink
it's
a
good without
gallon
it. Yeah, pineapples
Now-
are expensive.
5 minutes.
I'm thirsty.
What?
You started doing second ferments off those though, right? Off the pineapple?
No.
No.
Somebody else did though. In
But
my
we were talking about it.
well, I have a
somewhere.
Telegram group that's just for the workshop attendees, and somebody said, "Hey, do you think you could do a second run with the same pineapple rinds?" And they did it,
Mm.
and they said it was all right. It was fizzy and everything, but it just wasn't as flavorful. But you might try. I
Yeah.
mean, do a second pressing.
I'm
That'd be
trying to
cool.
Yeah.
regrow all the pineapples in my house.
Yeah.
cool.
I mean,
That
it'll
would
be
be
You're in
years.
Massachusetts.
That's
That's
what you
the-
grow in the basement.
That's the downside to the Tapache being so great is, excuse me, of a lot of these fermented beverages that you've done, pineapple's one that will never grow here.
No,
It's,
but you know what? Like blackberry kvass is close to that. Like that was really good. It almost had a wine taste to it. I know it's not the same for you, but like
if I was a wine alcoholic, I think that
You're a
the
wino.
blackberry blackberry might have been able to replace that.
Yeah.
But it was something I'd quit looking for it until I hit Tapache.
So once you're done with this, then you learn kvass, because kvass can be pretty much any fruit you can think of.
That's
So any
cool.
whatever's
Hell
abundant.
yeah. I'm
kvass.
excited.
Yeah.
New
So
projects.
yeah, for sure. There's a lot of good stuff. And then, ferment vegetables, because then you'll know what to do with your garden harvest next year too.
Oh,
Yes,
cool.
So far, we just threw everything in a freezer. So we
Yeah,
got the
that's
candy
good too.
stuff and-
But then if you have, you do some in some ferments, you'll have sauerkraut, or I
Yeah.
did fermented cherry tomatoes. I got fermented carrot sticks.
And I
yeah.
need that sauerkraut and stuff to make dairy-free cheeses out of the
Right.
nuts too. So
Yeah,
they're-
you have to need the culture, right?
we even have some fermented butternut squash.
Oh yeah, I did that with
Oh,
last year's
cool.
butternut squash. We kept it in the pantry for all winter, and then so when I was going to plant my new one, I fermented the rest of it. It's like the best thing I've ever
Just
had.
cubed
It's just
up and raw.
raw, cubed, and then it's just like this tangy little pickle. I put some coriander in with it, seed,
And trying it through the stages, because we kept opening it and tasting it. It would be like, yeah, that's okay, that's edible.
Yeah.
Like as the texture kept getting better and better, and then all of a sudden one time it was all bam, there
Nailed
it
it.
is.
yeah, it
You
was
probably
like
wrote that date or number of days.
I
down,
write the
I'm
number of
sure.
days on the label, so I remember when we're enjoying it. Because it was like because I didn't cook it, so it's raw, so it was like too hard for a long time until it got to that texture that you want it when you cook it. And now it's a pickle. It's in our fridge. It'll last in the fridge for like 2 years.
But it's never had the heat cook out any of those nutrients. And in fact, those nutrients, if the science is correct, if you believe in science, the nutrients continuously expand in there. I mean, I can't measure.
That's what's
any of this,
interesting.
so
all food preservation has some nutrient loss because you're cooking things at high heat often,
Right.
or time, even when you just pick something and let it sit on your counter, you're losing nutrients from when it's totally fresh. But with fermentation, a lot of times certain nutrients increase. The one that I'm familiar with is a study that showed 1 cup of cabbage was about 70 milligrams of vitamin C, and 1 cup of sauerkraut had like 700 something milligrams of vitamin C.
Wow, it's like free energy.
So it's like these microorganisms are building these vitamins and nutrients, and
And the gut
it's
health.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then how that helps your everything, your psyche and your immune system and all of that. It's really cool. I'm glad you guys are getting into it.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah, I'm down.
Do it.
We're
You
part
just got to
German.
massage some salt into some cabbage. That's
Heck
it.
yeah.
I do love cabbage.
I like
Yeah.
massaging.
Me too.
things.
You
And I love
guys are good.
sauce, so that's why we're together.
It's actually really fun for kids. So you can
Oh, cool. Yeah,
get them
he'll do it.
squishing some with their little hands. Yeah. Well, I'm not, we're both going to
the
release this
best
probably.
sauerkraut is squeezed by
Yeah,
little man.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll put
Yeah.
it out
So-
as
Audio.
I'll put it out as
Dear
a
God,
deep.
audio.
Yeah, it's fine. A
Deep
deep healing. Yeah, that we haven't
Yeah.
put out in a long time. I think that would be appropriate.
I was really enjoying the podcast, but I understand it's hard to find time to do this kind of stuff together.
It was just a different. Yeah, I mean, a lot happened.
Oh,
yeah.
it was a crazy year.
Yeah.
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 Crazy.
Why don't you plug all your stuff and then we'll do the same here to finish off.
Plug away.
Cool. You can find me at the Deep Share on all the social media platforms. You could, and you still technically can find me on Patreon, but I think I'm ditching it because of a lot of disgusting shit I'm finding out about Patreon, which maybe I'll talk about in an episode, or I don't know, but I think I'm ditching that. I want to try to go for a different format, like more towards just my brand, away from using some other platform to
Sure.
make money
Yeah.
like that. So anyway, yeah, you can find me on there, or contact at thedeepshare.com if you want to reach out to me. And yeah, I'm on all the
Awesome.
platforms and YouTube and Odyssey.
You post a lot of
Rockfin.
great stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
I feel like Twitter just puts me in that mood where I can, like, I don't have anything to say until I read a bunch of tweets. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, totally.
I like, I gotta say, I don't want to, keep this going too long because we do need to wrap it up. But I love your tweets and your takes that have to do with flat Earth, because I feel like you're one of the few other people in this world who can talk about and think about flat Earth rationally. but you can also revert and look at globe Earth and look at that rationally as well. I feel like a lot of the time when people make that switch over and they view it as flat Earth, they become almost like Nazis about it being flat Earth, and they're not willing to look back in the other direction and look at a global Earth.
You don't have any final answers.
No, that's my point.
The biggest fallacy of all, and it's very helpful in a lot of ways in many areas of living, but basing everything on observable, quote unquote, observable through our eyes, our human eyes, and
our globe-shaped eyes,
and just thinking we know. Coming to any conclusions, that's the problem mostly. I mean, I do it sometimes when it comes to history. I'm pretty hard-nosed about certain things, but when it comes to something that big that could be a side, part of it's definitely going on as a psyop on both ends, right?
Oh, sure. Both sides.
Yeah, NASA's a money laundering scheme. 100%. And the Flat Earth Society was a tax exempt, organization. So on both ends, you have, of course, the red versus blue, serpent and eagle, two forms of the same creature. Thing being put in front of us as always. So you gotta be careful. There's a lot of landmines.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Another reason we love you. So.
Oh, thanks. Well, I love you guys too. And I love flat earthers. There's plenty. They uncover more shit about NASA than any person that isn't questioning the globe model ever has. Yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like the bottle, the cup of water that was sitting on a desk on the ISS that came out a few weeks. It's like, excuse me, what is this?
Yeah,
like, no. And if there is an explanation, tell us now.
Yeah, please don't yell at us. Tell us in a calm way.
Right.
And I'm about to start doing a show with a flat earther. Our good friend Moral Bob. We're going to be doing a movie show with our friend DJ from Missing the Point. Like, we're going to be doing
we love both
a killer
those guys.
show coming out soon.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, man.
Awesome.
We are not going to agree on every level.
So that we should bring up who we are then. If you're going to post this, I'm Lanni.
Absolutely. Tell my audience.
And I'm Chud X.
And we have a podcast called The World as It Is Today, but also we're on a podcast called Feed the Beauty with Moral Bob and his wife, as well as Buffalo and Legs from False Reality Check and Adam from Deborah Gets Red Pilled. And that's like our homesteading podcast that we talk about whatever we're doing on the homestead.
Awesome. I would love to have all of you guys on at the same time with Kate and as like a big round table sometime. I think that would be killer, man.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Everyone's down. I'll speak for all of them. And
they're all into it. Yeah,
that would be so much fun. Yeah. I love Legs and Buff and everybody's great. I think that's so awesome.
That's been great. But you can find everything that we do on greenerpostures.com. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Greener Postures.
And I'm Mr. Chud X Indeed on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, guys.
Yeah.
This was really great. Thanks for doing this recap with us. I think we should keep this up for sure.
Yeah, it feels good to talk about. I mean, sometimes in the day it doesn't feel like much, but when you look over a whole season, you guys have made a lot of progress and learned a lot of things, and that's pretty cool.
It's day to day, it might not seem like a big deal each day, but it's been a long time since we talked in April.
Yeah.
For think about everything you've done since April, and if we look back on everything we've done, it's like, oh man. A year is a long time.
Yeah.
And even just a section of a year like that, we accomplished so much. And it's that's why I think it's so great for people to break out of what I call the matrix and not just be in a repetitive cycle of life that you don't know what time of year it is or whatever. And you can actually appreciate your life and look at all the things that you do, as opposed to just looking at it as all being a monotonous thing.
Yeah. Well, this was great, guys. We'll definitely do it again.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Peace out.
You.
Peace. Bye, everybody.